Hi everyone, Anthony Morganti here. Recently, On1 Software released On1 Effects 2024. In this video, I'm going to show you how to use it. Now, this is very important. If you already own On1 Photo Raw 2024, you do not need to purchase On1 Effects 2024 because it is already part of and integrated into On1 Photo Raw 2024. The reason why you may want to purchase On1 Effects 2024 is if you're a Lightroom or Photoshop user, you could use it as a plugin in either of those apps, or you could use it as a standalone app. In today's video, I'm going to be using it as a standalone app. Now, when you first open it, you'll notice at the bottom will be a film strip. The images down in the film strip are your previous edits, and if you'd like to re-edit one of those or pick up on your editing where you left off, you just double click on the image and open it up and start editing it. If you'd like to edit a new image, just right in the middle, click on Edit Photo. Now, I have a folder of unedited RAW files. Now, you do not have to work on an unedited RAW file. For example, if you're using this as a Lightroom plugin, you may want to do some adjustments in Lightroom first, and then at some point in your workflow, send the image over into Effects 2024 and do some editing with Effects, then go back into Lightroom and do some more editing there. That would be probably your normal workflow. Now, because I'm using it as a standalone app, I'm sending in unedited RAW files. As a matter of fact, we'll send in this unedited RAW file. Now, as far as the user interface is concerned, it's a pretty typical On1 user interface in that along the left, you'll have a panel of presets. Now, what these presets are, each preset is just a number of filters that are used in conjunction with one another to give your image a specific look. And I probably should clarify some terms. The words filters and effects are the same thing as far as this application is concerned. They mean the same thing. If you look over at the right-hand panel, you'll see there's a button, Add Filter. If I click on that, you could see there's a number of filters here. These filters are also known as effects. So you may hear me mention something. I may say filters, and then in another breath, I'll say effects. If I do that, I mean the exact same thing. Now, again, over on the left panel, we have the presets. Those are just a number of filters or effects used in conjunction with one another to give your image a specific look. I'm not going to be using any presets in this video, so I'm going to close down that left panel. Along the left side is the tool well. There's a number of tools here. You see there's a crop tool, move tool. There's the Super Select AI tool, which I'll talk about more in a moment. And then you have like a masking brush and or an eraser there. Now, these two tools are actually more than one tool. For example, if I click on this little perfect eraser, then I bring my cursor all up towards the top, you'll notice there's a little drop down here in this panel that rolled open. And you can see there's a number of different brushes and erasers here: healing brush, perfect eraser, retouch brush, and clone stamp. So there's more than one tool here. Same thing with the masking brush. I click on that and go up there. You can see there's a number of different masking brushes to choose from. So be aware of that. Now, as far as this image is concerned, I like to start out my editing workflow by cropping the image. So I'm going to crop the image right away. And you can see I could go to a number of overlays, rule of thirds, and so on. I usually use rule of thirds or golden spiral. I'm going to stay with the rule of thirds. And I don't think I'm going to stay with the original ratio. I think I want to crop it square. And specifically, I want to tighten it up a little bit. So let's see if we'll pull it up a little bit maybe and pull it down a little bit and then move her over a little bit like that. So I have the rule of thirds, where these lines intersect, I have it over her left eye. I do have part of her paw sticking up here, but I could use one of the removal tools to get rid of that. So I think this is good. I'm going to click the check mark up here to commit to that crop. Now, this is non-destructive, so you don't have to worry about it ruining your RAW file. So it's non-destructive. Now, I'm going to try to get rid of her paw here. So I'm going to click on the eraser tool here. And specifically, I do want to use that perfect eraser. And you could use the bracket keys to change the size of the brush, right bracket key larger, left bracket key smaller. And in the case of the perfect eraser, just paint over the thing you want removed, and then just wait a second. It will use AI to get rid of that thing. In this case, it did. If you don't like what it did, or you need to paint again, just paint again and just keep painting it until you get something satisfactory. In this case here, it's fine the way it is. So far, so good. Now, I'm ready to add my first effect or my first filter. Now, there's a couple different ways you could add filters. You could add them globally, where they'll affect every single pixel of the image, or you could use masking to mask a specific part of the image and apply the effect only to that very specific part. And built into On1 Effects 2024 is AI masking, where it will automatically find specific elements in the image and then allow you to quickly mask that element so that you could apply an effect or filter to it. Now, if you're interested to learn more about masking, I have an entire course on masking in On1 Photo Raw 2024. It's called Mastering Masking in On1 Photo Raw 2024, and it's available directly from On1. I'll have a link to it in the description below this video. Now, as far as this image is concerned, I want to start out with a global adjustment, as I normally would if I was editing this image in On1 Photo Raw, or if I was editing in Lightroom or any other app for that matter. I like to, after I crop, edit tone. So I'm going to go to Add Filter, and I'm going to add a Tone Enhancer filter, and this will affect every single pixel. So you'll see as I move a slider, it's affecting everything. That's what I want. So what we'll do is we'll reset that exposure slider back to 0, and I want to move the highlight slider first. What I usually do is I look at the brightest part of the image, and I'll move the highlight slider down until I see some detail come into that area, and right around there I'm seeing some of the fur pop through. And then same thing for shadows. I'll go and click on that. I'll look at the darkest part of the image, and I'll move that to the right till I see some detail come through right about there. Then I'll get a white and black point. And the way you would do that with any On1 product is holding the J key on your keyboard, then click on the whites and move it to the right, and eventually you'll see some red come through. That means you're blowing out the highlights in those areas. And I don't like to blow out the highlights, so I'll just back that off while holding in the J key till all that red dissipates right about there. Then same thing for blacks. Hold in that J key, click on the black slider. This time move it to left. Eventually you'll see some blue come in. That means you're crushing the shadows, that area. And I don't mind crushing the shadows much. So that's good. Now, a little bit more about these filters or these effects. Along the top, you'll see styles. These are kind of presets for the filters. And then at the bottom, you'll see there's often other things you could do with the filter. With this specific filter, I could add detail or clarity. I also could do any curve adjustment if I wanted to. Now, as far as this filter is concerned and the image is concerned, I do want to add detail, clarity, sharpness, but I only want to add it to the lion. So I do not want to do it here because it will do it globally. I'll add clarity to the background, and I don't want to do that. And I don't need to do anything with curves. And I don't need to choose one of the built-in styles. So I think I'm actually done with the Tone Enhancer filter. My next thing I want to do is make the lion sharper, and I like to use dynamic contrast for that, and I want to apply it only to the lion. Several different ways I could do that. The easiest way right now, because I have my cursor over here to the right, is just click on Add Filter. Then over here on the left, you'll see Apply Mask To, and you'll notice there's foreground, background, stuff like that. But the animal, it has the animal mask. You can see it has a red overlay, and if I click on that, you'll see I got a blue overlay. Now, it missed part of her leg, but I could fix that. And I mentioned I want to add dynamic contrast. So I'll add dynamic contrast, and as it is now, I'm just going to put it way up. You can see how it's only affecting the lion. Now, I was missing part of her leg, so I need to add to the mask. To do that, click right on this little mask icon, and you'll get the masking properties dialog. And when you do that, you'll have a masking brush where you could add to or remove from the existing mask. And if you want to see the mask, there's a little mask overlay icon right here. Just click on that, and you'll get a mask overlay. And this works kind of backwards than what I'm used to. Where the red is, that's what's not getting affected by your adjustment. So what is actually being masked in is the part where red isn't. And there's another you could do to grayscale too if you prefer that, but I like the red. Now, when I have this brush. If I go up here to the top, I need to make sure that I'm painting in the adjustment, and I make sure opacity is at 100. When you start to use this, it'll be at 50. So just make sure opacity is at 100, and then come in here and you're adding to the mask. Now, I think I have the perfect brush on. With the perfect brush on, what it will do is when you click with the adjustment with your mouse, see that little plus sign in the middle of the brush? It will look right there at the tone, texture, and color that is directly under that plus, and it will only apply the brush stroke to similar tone, texture, and color. So you can see how it's not getting, even though my brush is on the rock behind the leg of the lioness, it's not affecting that area. And you can see how it's kind of blotchy a little bit because it is doing that, but I could then turn it off by just clicking on it. And then I could come in and make sure that I have my adjustment affect all of her. That's good. Now, I could get rid of the masking properties dialog and I could come back to my actual adjustment. There are some preset styles and there are some other things down here at the bottom. There's tone and vibrance. And if I come in and I could like go a natural look and it will move the sliders accordingly. If I do surreal, see how it moves the sliders. Soft. If I go to the drop down, you can see there's other options there as well. But for this specific image, I am just going to stick with the natural preset, but I am going to tweak the small contrast up just a little bit, make her look a little sharper. And I'm going to add some vibrance. And the vibrance, because it's masking just the lion, it will only be applied to the lion. And I should get rid of the mask overlay. I click over here so you don't see that. But you can see how it's only affecting the lion. So I just wanted to add a little vibrance to our lioness. So that is that. Now, the other thing I like to do is I like to, when I'm shooting wildlife, is I'd like to make them be a little more separated from the background. And one way I could do that is I could darken the background a little bit and I could take a little color away from the background. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Add Filter, and then I'm going to go to Background, click that on, and then I'm going to go to the Tone Enhancer. Now, it did grab part of her paw here, so I need to click on the masking properties, and then I'll turn the mask on, and you can see how it doesn't have the mask, the red overlay, at least on her leg. So I need to erase from that area right there because I don't want to darken her leg. Now I don't have the perfect brush on, so I have to be a little careful that I don't get the rock behind her, but that's good enough. So I just clean up that mask a little bit, turn off the overlay. Now if I go to exposure, get rid of the masking properties dialog, you'll see it's only affecting the background. I just darken the background a little bit. Now I want to take a little color away from the background. Kind of a time saver what you could do, because I put that background mask on and then I had to modify it slightly. Instead of going and doing that all over again, just click on the mask icon here to get the masking properties and copy the mask to the clipboard. Now I'll add a filter that is, I don't have to go over here and apply the mask with anything. I'm going to add a color enhancer filter, but then I'm going to click on the mask icon and I'm going to click this little icon right here, which will paste the mask. Now you see I pasted the mask, and now I could come in and I could take a little saturation away from the background. Now to finish the image off, I'm going to add a global filter, which is a vignette. So I'm not going to mask this. It's just a vignette. And what I like to do is choose either strong or big softy to see what they look like. There's strong, there's big softy. And then sometimes I'll come in and readjust something slightly. But that looks pretty good. Okay, I'm done. Now, because I'm using this as a standalone app, I have the option to save it as a specific file. Remember, I said it's non-destructive. It's not going to touch the original raw file. If you're using this as a plugin in Lightroom or Photoshop, it will just return you with the image to Lightroom or Photoshop. So I'm going to click this little check mark here, and then I could save it as either two different types of Photoshop files, a TIFF file, JPEG, PNG, or a DNG, which is a raw file. And that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to save it as a DNG, and I'm going to call it Lion, and I'm going to save it to the desktop. And I'll just click Save. And it will save the image and then return me back to my screen. You can see at the bottom, it's there at the bottom. If I want to come in and re-edit this, I could just double click on that, and it will bring you right where you left off. It might take a second to kick in, but I'll just get out of there, X out of there. And let me show you the edited image. It is an edited DNG file. Now, my default app to open DNG files is Photoshop. And because it is a RAW file, it will open up into Camera Raw. But you'll notice that my edits are there, and Photoshop recognizes the edits. You'll see the images cropped, and you'll see that all the work I did to the image is showing up here. So it's an edited image. So it's excellent, excellent, excellent. Now, we'll do one more that I think one that's a little more difficult, and I'm going to show you some other tools that are in Effects 2024. So we'll go here, we'll edit a photo, and there's one of an eagle. I think it's this one. Yeah, this one's going to be a little more difficult to edit. So we have this eagle. Again, what I like to do early in my workflow is crop. So I'm going to go directly to the crop tool, but I don't want to crop it square. I do want to stay with the original ratio, and I'm going to tighten it up by bringing it down at the top and moving our eagle this way, actually, so that the eagle's looking off into the larger part of the frame. That looks pretty good. Just tighten it up a little bit. Okay, that's good. We'll click the blue check mark. I got something kind of bleeding in over here, so I'm going to get the perfect eraser. Again, make sure I'm using that. And I'm just going to come in and get rid of that really very quickly. Yeah, that looks all right. Now, similar to before, I'm going to do a global adjustment to begin with for tone. So I'm going to click Add Filter, and we're going to go to Tone Enhancer. And I think I need to boost the exposure a little bit. Then I'm going to pull highlights in, open up the shadows a touch, get a white point by holding in that J key again and moving this to the right till I see some red come through, and then back it off till all that red is gone. Just right there. Same thing for blacks, hold in that J key. Go this way, I got some blue coming in. I don't mind crushing the shadows a little bit. Now, as far as detail and curves, I again don't want to do that globally, so I'm fine with Tone Enhancer. Now, what I want to do though is the eagle still kind of looks pretty drab. So what I'm going to do is, instead of going to just add filter and doing the mask that way, I'm just going to show you another way you could use an AI mask or apply an AI mask. And again, I cover this in that course, Mastering Masking in On1 Photo Raw 2024. I'm going to use this tool right here. This is the Super Select AI tool. When I activate that tool, you notice if I hover over the image with the tool activated, that parts of the image, I clicked on that, didn't want to, parts of the image will have like a mask. And right here, if I hover over the eagle, you can see that it has the mask. And if I click, then I have the blue overlay. Now it looks kind of sloppy, but actually it's a little more accurate than the overlay kind of lets you on that it is. So I really don't have to worry about touching this up or fixing it for this specific adjustment that I'm going to do. Now, to apply the adjustment, after you clicked on it and made the overlay blue, right click on it, and then you have a number of different adjustments. And I'm going to go to Color Enhancer, and I'm going to go down and increase color. And when you do, you'll have the mask, so it's just the eagle is being the masked, and it increased vibrance and saturation in this case. And if you want to see a before-after, there's before, and there's after. Before, eagle wasn't very colorful to begin with, and there's after. There's before, and there's after. So that's pretty cool. Now you see, I'll just do it, see? But we're getting a little more pop from our eagle here, right? Now, I'm just going to go to Add Filter again, doing it this way, and I'm going to click on the animal, and I want to, in this case, again, add dynamic contrast. So we're going to sharpen it. I'll use this natural preset to start, and then we're going to maybe just tweak these a little bit, make it look nice and sharp. That looks pretty good. Now, again, I like to darken the background, so I'm going to add a filter, and it's going to be the background, but I want to also add any, like this area over here, which isn't being represented by anything here. So what I got to do is modify this mask. But I am going to, for this case, add a tone enhancer, but I need to add to it. So we'll click here. We'll turn on our mask so I could see it. And we need to come in and use this brush, and we're going to paint in the adjustment. It's kind of backwards of what you think. And I'll get a bigger brush. And we'll come in here and take the mask away from up here. And for the sake of this video, I'm not going to use the perfect brush right now. I'm just going to try to do this very quickly. And that's good. And we could get rid of the masking properties dialog. And here, I'm just going to darken it, although I could get rid of my mask overlay. And we'll darken it a little bit like that. And then to finish this image off, I'm going to add a global adjustment, which again will be the vignette. I'll see what Big Softy looks like, or maybe strong looks good. I could back strong off just a little bit. And that's that. That's this adjustment. Now, if you'd like to see a before after, hold in the / key to get a before and an after. Before, after. And, you know, I think I'm going to do one more thing. I'm going to add a color enhancer filter, but it's global right now. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on the mask icon, and we'll turn on my mask so I could see what I'm doing. We'll invert it first. That's maybe what I should do. And then we'll make sure we're painting in. Then I'll come in here and paint in. So we're affecting just the eye of the eagle. And then what we'll do is I want to add some saturation, get rid of the overlay, some saturation to the eagle's eye. See how it's affecting the eye of the eagle only. Just like that. And then you could reorder these as well. So I could take this and move it under the vignette. I also could rename these, just double click on the name. And I could call this eye. Like that. So you could rename these, you could reorder these, just drag them around. But I'd say that that's a day. I basically did the eye adjustment just so you could see that you could reorder these by just dragging and dropping, and you could rename them as well. So I'm just going to save this, and we'll save it as a DNG again, and again we'll save it to the desktop. And that's that. So that's On1 Effects 2024. In a future video, I'll demonstrate how to use it as a plugin in Lightroom. And then in another video, I'll demonstrate how to use it as a plugin in Photoshop. Thank you, everyone who watches my videos. I really do appreciate it. Talk to you guys soon.